Ministry of Renewal Ministries Northwest intersected in a wonderful way several years back. Our congregation's leadership had really awakened to the need to focus in much more on being the spiritual leaders of the congregation as opposed to just programmatic leadership, but didn't really know how to go about doing that. And that's where Renewal Ministries came in. They came and helped us to first plan for a retreat by just collectively working together to get an understanding of what discernment is like when it happens in community. As a Presbyterian church, our leaders are elected by the church members to serve on our session. And so they came in and worked with our elders specifically to give some equipping and training on how to do discernment, how to hear the voice of Jesus together with one another, but then also how to respond to that faithfully, and again, to do that all together in community.
Renewal ministry for me is twofold. It's a part of my personal journey, helping me to learn to deepen my relationship with Christ. But also, it's a way that our church has, especially in leadership, we've embraced as a way to help us with some of the issues regarding things that have happened in the past.
They have a wonderful way to fill what I have found is a void, certainly within our own tradition and our own denomination. We certainly want to be able to affirm that there is a need collectively to be able to listen for the voice of Jesus. We affirm absolutely theologically that Jesus is Lord of the church. But how does that work out? How do you actually do that in a committee meeting? And it's very easy for us to just follow Robert's Rules of Order as opposed to following the Spirit of God who might be leading.
What they're doing is they're really acting as guides in a process. So just as you might, for instance, you might decide that you're going to go on a trip to another country or perhaps another state or something like that, and you may read all about it and gather all the knowledge that you want, but it's very helpful to have a guide who speaks that language and maybe knows some of the things to point out along your journey, and that's what Renewal Ministries is for us.
On the day of the retreat, they led us through a wonderful time of really focusing in on one specific question. And for us, that was simply, Lord, how would you have us move from what we have sensed is a season of preparation to one of renewed and engaged ministry in the world? Times of being in prayer and intercession, times of sitting quietly and listening individually for the Spirit to speak, times of then sharing those things that we heard and trying to find the commonalities that were there. So the process itself was effective, it was helpful, it enabled us to leave that day feeling like we had collectively really heard from the Lord of the church and were encouraged. My leaders left, I think, inspired and excited to see where God was at work. It was far more than just your average committee meeting. And the result came back very clear as we spent time in prayer, time in silence listening, time hearing the Spirit speak through the Scriptures. And it was a wonderful unifying experience for our congregation that actually led to some very practical outworkings over the next 12 months. Pastors of congregations that are they're singing that Clash song, should I stay or should I go now, as they look at denominational affiliation. And that's a huge decision, and one not to be made lightly. And I think Renewal Ministries is a place to be able to come in, not to dictate, not to give an answer, but to help provide a structure, a framework for listening well in community to what the living Lord of the church would say, as opposed to just what's our ideology or our politically driven agenda for things.
It's a good thing to be able to bring in what I would call, experts, and Renewal Ministries has provided that for us.
The value of bringing in somebody from the outside comes in a variety of different places. One is simply the expertise that the leadership of Renewal Ministries brings, their own background, their training, and quite frankly, just the ways in which the Spirit of God works in them and through them. And again, also, to be able to have somebody from the outside who is not caught up in the system, the dynamics, the interpersonal relationships, the history, who can, from the outside, with a lot of grace, as well as a lot of wisdom, speak into what they are seeing and hearing as they lead through a time of community discernment.
A church is just like any other body politic, and so there's a number of different people. You get different personalities, different needs, and so on and so forth, and there's also conflict. And so one of the issues in a church, just like any other group, is how do you deal with conflict? And so Renewal Ministries has helped us to be able to deal with some of these issues in a Christ-centered way, and to go before God in prayer, and to truly seek His will and the path that He would have for us. And that has been both difficult and rewarding.
For me, it really has been an amazing gift to be able to be the participant in there. It's a gift to be able to watch the way in which my leaders interact with one another as somebody else is providing leadership for them. To be able to be a participant in the process, to sit at the table, to have a voice, certainly a unique voice as the one who is the pastor, but nonetheless a participating voice in that process, and to listen as well. Having somebody else come in from the outside to facilitate frees me up in terms of my own mental and spiritual work, and the fact that I'm not trying to focus on what's the next point, when do we need to break for lunch, how do I respond to what this person said, should I make a note right here? I don't have to worry about any of that. When somebody else is facilitating a discernment retreat, as Renewal Ministries has done for us, it enables me to engage fully in the process and not worry about just even the nuts and bolts of leadership. It really feels like we're building a relationship with partners in ministry rather than just folks from the outside who are hired to come in and to fix things for us. So while they might be Renewal Ministries Northwest, I think they really are tapping into something that God is doing within the church on a much grander scale, helping us to, particularly in the West, move our faith out of our heads, into our hearts, and then out through our actions in daily life. It's a good deal. It's been a gift.